Pay close attention. The news you're about to see is fulfilling Bible prophecy.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you the news that relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yeshua Hawkins. Katan, we're going to talk about gas prices, still on the rise. Right. Also, we had a missile attack that recently was reported in Syria. They're blaming Israel for that. Also, we're seeing COVID cases starting to spike again, in some places 5 times what they were a year ago. Wow. And also, we're going to talk about why those things are on the rise. We see water, particularly the rainfall, on the decline. Well, the San Joaquin Valley is known for its fertile fields, vineyards, and orchards, but now California farmers are having to cut back and in some cases not even plant certain crops due to the severe drought. Joe Del Bosque Farms has been in operation since 1985. Now, he told CBS Evening News, we're in our 3rd year of drought. 3 years, he said. Now, this is, I think, the worst year we've ever had. The reservoirs are very low on water.
Well, according to water officials, it is believed that the past 3 years could be the driest ever in California's history. Mike Wade of the California Farm Water Coalition says the produce that we would normally see in grocery stores will not be grown in the quantities it has been in the past. Now, California also provides 2/3 of the U.S. supply of fruits and nuts. He said, we're blessed with the Mediterranean type of climate here in California that nobody else has, and we can grow crops here that can't grow anywhere else.
Well, farmer Bill Dietrich said he won't be growing any tomatoes this year because he needs the water for other crops that are less risky. Because the last 3 months have been extremely dry, he says, quote, the impact on food production has been phenomenal. Now, he estimates that there could be up to 600,000 acres of land not planted this year due to the limited water supply.
While many farms do rely in part on groundwater supplies, if those are not stored in the years where there was a lot of precipitation, then in the bad years where there is low rainfall, the groundwater cannot keep up with the demand. Mike Wade says, quote, we need to take advantage of wet years when they come, capture those peak flows so we can grow food without water. Get it either into the reservoir, he said, or into the ground so farmers have it available to plant crops.
Well, state officials are now being pressured to do more to capture not only the rainwater, but the snowfall as well. In the past, there was no focus on collecting snow, but that is quickly shifting as the realization is every last drop of precipitation is precious to life in San Joaquin Valley and all Americans. Now, currently, billions of dollars are being invested in recharging groundwater basins, but time might have already run out. The food supply in the near future is going to be noticeably affected because of the lack of water to grow it right now, and that situation isn't changing.
Well, one place the effects of a mega drought can easily be seen is Lake Powell, a man-made reservoir that is fed by the Colorado River along the Arizona-Utah border. Lake Powell has sunk to historic low levels over the past few years, with fears of it not being able to continue to supply water to neighboring states as well as hydroelectricity, which is also produced at the lake as well. Well, this video here we're going to watch shows us just how bad the situation is. Please have a look.
This morning, our series Earth 365 looks at natural wonders emerging from a submerged past, but doing so at an alarming pace because of climate change. And one place this is happening is Lake Powell along the Utah-Arizona border. The lake is a storage basin for the Southwest's dwindling supply of water, also a source of hydropower. And a mega drought has drained the lake to historically low levels. Senior national and environmental correspondent Ben Tracy shows us the costs of climate change and the places being revealed for the first time in decades.
We're going to buoy number 3, they call it.
Paul McNabb and his dad Mike are fishing guides on Utah's Lake Powell. They've been casting along these canyons for decades.
Hey, caught one.
They're worried that the wall in front of their favorite fishing hole will just keep getting taller.
I'm looking at spots that 30, 40 feet up the wall where my bait was hitting where I was fishing just a year ago.
So you're saying literally a year ago, this boat we're on right now would have been 30, 40 feet up there?
Yep. It's absolutely crazy how much it's come down.
Lake Powell has dropped nearly 40 feet in just 1 year. Lake Powell has dropped nearly 40 feet in just 1 year. These satellite images show how quickly it has shriveled up during a 22-year-long mega drought. As climate change makes the West hotter and drier, this massive reservoir is now less than 24% full. That white bathtub ring is where the water was before the drought began, 177 feet higher than it is now.
If the lake continues to keep going down at the rate that it is, it's a pretty scary situation.
What do you predict about the future of this business you got?
I would say that we got 5 years left.
And then your business is done.
Yep.
Houseboats are already running out of room. 11 of Lake Powell's 12 boat ramps are closed because they can't reach the water. If the lake keeps falling, the Glen Canyon Dam won't be able to produce hydropower, impacting the electricity supply for more than 5 million people in 6 states. Last month, the Assistant Secretary of the Interior warned Western governors of profound concerns in operating the dam at lower lake levels, and that the Western electrical grid would experience uncertain risk and instability.
Well, I'm very concerned.
Brian Hill is general manager of Page Utilities. The Arizona town used to get 50% of its electricity from the dam. That's been cut in half as lake levels have fallen.
For all the Southwest, I think the situation is critical. So Mother Nature is going to have to come to the rescue, or we're going to have to really look at some different ways at how we use water throughout the Southwest.
Lake Powell is considered a savings account, banking excess water and then sending it down the Colorado River to Lake Mead, the nation's largest reservoir. This river system supplies water for 40 million people in the West. In an unprecedented move, the federal government is holding back most of the water that would have been sent downriver and propping up Lake Powell with water from reservoirs upriver.
It is a Band-Aid fix, and everybody knows it.
Eric Balkin runs the Glen Canyon Institute, named for the massive canyon that was flooded to create Lake Powell back in the 1960s after the dam was built.
At this moment, Lake Powell was born.
Before the dam was in place, Glen Canyon was considered one of the most remarkable landscapes in the U.S. People who knew it well considered it to be as beautiful as the Grand Canyon. Seeing this place come back to life is just such a special experience.
Now, as the water recedes, the lost treasures of Glen Canyon are reemerging.
This is just stunning in here.
It's a very special place.
Balkin took us into what's known as Cathedral in the Desert, a massive cavern of undulating rock and a trickling waterfall.
So that part of the chamber has not been seen since the 1960s. When we were here last year, we were parking our boats right here.
And now, one of the largest natural bridges in the country has risen out of the water.
This bridge was covered by water, so what we're boating under, you used to be able to boat over.
You used to be able to boat over the top of this bridge.
And you think we'll be hiking under here?
I think we'll be hiking under here probably in the next few years. The purpose of the reservoir was to store excess water. And we're in a place now where excess water is a thing of the past. The rate of change that we're seeing now is happening way faster than I ever thought it would, which is startling in some ways, but it also gives me a lot of hope because we're seeing so much come back.
Because right now, this is both a reservoir on life support and a lost canyon being reborn.
Well, we heard there, Catan, that the water level is down 40 feet in 1 year, and it's actually dropped 100 feet in the past 3 years. So quite a bit difference there. I can see why everybody's getting concerned at the water usage and what's left.
Yeah, because as we just mentioned, you know, it's not only the food, but many homes and businesses rely on the electricity that's also produced at that particular reservoir as well. So you're not going to have any electricity coming from it either.
All right, dire situation. Well, health officials are recommending children ages 5 to 11 get a COVID booster in light of rising cases once again. Now, the number of cases is up more than 168% from last month, which has health officials worrying this could be the start of the 5th wave of the pandemic. Now, approximately a third of the country lives in areas where there is a medium to high risk levels of infection, and this is prompting public health officials to push for a return to stricter pandemic measures, which includes indoor masks, amongst other things. Now, with the Memorial Day weekend close, cases have reached almost 100,000 a day and sure to continue climbing.
As the cases of COVID climbs, of course, gas prices, as you mentioned earlier, are also continuing to climb, and of course it is having a negative impact on many people. And also the latest thing on the monkeypox outbreak, which is something that we haven't heard of in a very, very long time, and how, of course, health officials are saying it should be dealt with. Larry, what do you have for us in regards to these situations?
The ongoing and pervasive declination in health being witnessed across spheres and species encompasses and involves more than just the physical. Mental illness among women in the military is also now catching headlines, though for the occupation that should be an expected thing. If there was any expectation of a reprieve following behind the long periods of isolation and reduced cash flow related to the plague, then circumstances at the pump are offering a great opportunity for disillusionment. The problems, however, involve more than just petrol and the world's strongest economy. It is becoming as difficult to keep food on the table as it is to keep gas in the tank. This is due to rising prices at the stores. The overall situation is being attributed to the worst inflation crisis in 40 years. It has been years since the public has heard alarm bells concerning monkeypox, but the affliction has reemerged on the scene and cases are being reported in multiple countries across the globe. Though some experts have expressed uncertainty with regard to the driving factors related to the origin of the latest outbreak, other media outlets have been more forthcoming. And here in the U.S., the present administration reports that they are keeping an eye on the impact and behavior of the virus to see what can be done. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan Jeff, back to you.
Well, Katan, it will be interesting to see just how far and wide the monkeypox virus spreads. Well, as the conflict continues between Russia and Ukraine, another topic of concern looms between Russia and NATO, as both entities eye an island that lies in the Baltic Sea and is of strategic importance to both NATO and Russia. Take a look at this next video to find out why.
Both NATO and Russia have eyes on this Swedish island. Once inhabited by Vikings in as early as the 8th century, this piece of land is of strategic importance. That's because it's located in the center of the Baltic Sea and is on NATO's European front line. But it's also the only waterway where Russia has direct access to the west. Gotland is just one small part of how NATO could benefit if Sweden and Finland become members of the bloc. Both nations have said they will take steps to apply for membership of the Western Military Alliance.
It is a very significant shift. These are two countries that have sought to take a position of military non-alignment.
Finnish and Swedish membership in NATO would greatly enhance the defense of the Baltic region and reduce the chances of Russian adventurism or attack across the air, land, and sea domains in an integrated fashion.
Analysts say the expansion of the bloc could make NATO stronger and affect Russia's current strategy in Ukraine. To understand how, we need to look at the geography and military capabilities of both countries. The location of both Sweden and Finland would mean the alliance has significantly more land in the east of Europe. Take Finland, for example. It has an 830-mile-long border with Russia, but if we look a little closer, we can see that this border is full of lakes and marshland with very few roads for military vehicles such as tanks to travel on. Analysts say those conditions would be beneficial for NATO in any potential combat situation with Russia.
From a NATO point of view, it's a huge opportunity. So you think about combat in Ukraine over by Kiev, where Russia was trying to push down really narrow roads. That's Finland.
One key area for Russia is the Kola Peninsula, where Moscow houses sub-launched ballistic missiles that are key to its nuclear arsenal. Currently, the only NATO country bordering the zone is Norway. But analysts say if Finland joins the bloc, it would increase pressure on the region.
So suddenly, if Finland's having an exercise up here, it's not just Norwegian forces, maybe a brigade or two. Now suddenly it might be 50,000 troops. So again, Russia has to now divert troops up there.
In Sweden, Gotland is strategic for Russia because it could be a base to protect its naval forces in the Baltic Sea.
And they would use that as a base of operations for amphibious assault, for land attack, for air attack, and for naval attack.
Yeah, well, I can see that being of strategic concern to Russia, because if Finland and Sweden are joining NATO, of course, that will finish off Russia's westernmost border being basically occupied by the majority of NATO countries.
Right, and a lot of time those islands become very strategic positions for military if they occupy them.
That's right. Well, as the U.S. accuses China of undermining global security, the U.S. Secretary of State unveiled Washington's strategy to compete with China. Blinken insisted that Washington does not want a new conflict, but that under Xi Jinping, China's Communist Party is becoming more oppressive at home and more aggressive abroad.
Well, some of Blinken's examples included disputes in the South China Sea and accusing Beijing of standing with Russia on its invasion in Ukraine. Now, Blinken said in his speech, quote, "We don't seek to block China in its role as a major power, nor to stop China or any other country, for that matter, from growing their economy or advancing the interests of their people." Now, he also said that China is the only country with both the intent to reshape the international order and increasingly the economic, diplomatic, technological, and military power to do it.
Interesting. Well, he concluded by saying that Beijing's vision would move us away from the universal values that have sustained so much of the world's progress over the past 75 years. So it sounds like the U.S. is saying that what China is wanting to do with their vision will actually set the whole globe back, amidst all the progress that was made, not basically painting a pretty picture for China and its advances.
Well, in the Middle East, another deadly bombardment in Syria is being blamed on Israel as Israeli precision-guided missiles, salvos, penetrated Syrian airspace Friday night, during which a number of warehouses and military installations in the vicinity of Damascus were destroyed. Now, those targeted areas that were struck were reportedly being guarded by Iranian proxy militia near Damascus International Airport.
Numerous salvos were also launched at a number of various Iranian installations in several locations, including a village north of Damascus. Now, while Syria did launch its air defense system to counter the Israeli missile strikes, extensive damage was confirmed at all targeted locations.
Well, Syrian Defense Ministry confirmed that 3 of its Syrian air defense troops, including one of its officers, were killed. Now, while Damascus pointed a finger at Israel when the IDF spokesperson's unit was questioned, the IDF neither confirmed nor denied the attack.
Yeah, well, you can see here with the things that are taking place in Israel and the things taking place with Russia and NATO, Russia and Ukraine, and we're seeing the conflict escalate between the U.S., of course, U.S. being a NATO partner, between that and Russia, the U.S. and China also backing Russia. It's kind of creating a storm, a perfect storm, so to speak, that is going to lead everyone closer to nuclear war, not to mention all the effects that the entire world is feeling from the many pestilences that are taking place right now, COVID, monkeypox, and the food problem and gas prices.
Right, and although some of these smaller wars, and not that it's not important, but these smaller wars like we're seeing here in Damascus and Israel, even though they're not top news, the war is still taking place. And remember, Damascus had a part in the prophecy that Yeshua Hawkins explained that city was going to cease to exist and become a pile of rubble. And we'll see that it's actually, that prophecy is being fulfilled. And it's coming to pass. That's right. It's closer to coming to pass every day.
Now, these little scrimmages are leading closer to a third part of man being killed over a fourth part of the earth, as Israel has shown in the prophecies. And then that, of course, is going to lead to the all-out nuclear war. Well, to find out more about the prophecies and what is yet to come, and of course what you can do to prepare for these upcoming wars, contact the House of Yahweh. And when you do, don't forget to request your free copy of the Prophetic Word magazine and the monthly newsletter. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them on any of their websites by going to yahweh.com, YisraelHawkins.com, or yahwehsbranch.com. We also encourage you to check out our website by going to YPNnews.com. If you would like to email the House of Yahweh, you can do so by emailing info@yahweh.com. Once again, if you'd like to call and from a different country, the number is on your screen right now for any international calls. And if you have not yet done so, please go to YisraelSays.com or AskYisrael.com and check out these two absolutely free Bible study tools. You can put a word or a phrase in there, and information will pop up, guaranteed to occupy any time you have, that will increase your knowledge of the sacred scriptures.
Well, to continue in your increase of knowledge, stay with us, because up next is Yisrael Hawkins. For all of us here at YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander.
And I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
Thank you for watching.